Number one thing I would say is extreme network segregation. So by saying network segregation means that you have 100% isolation between networks. So if you go to a defense, there is simply no network connection between these two. It's not a firewall in between, it's a full isolation. You can achieve that by implementing a data diode or an optical firewall. Optical firewall is different than regular firewall because, again, regular firewall can be exploited by vulnerabilities, and also you can have firewall rules.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our interview with Benny Czarny. Benny is the founder and CEO at OPSWAT, a global leader in critical infrastructure protection cybersecurity solutions. Benny has over 25 years of experience in successfully identifying market needs and building, marketing, and selling innovative cloud-based products and solutions. And he founded OPSWAT in 2002 to offer a unique market-driven approach to security applications, design, and development. But prior to founding OPSWAT, Benny held technical leadership and position at NetManage, Netek, and BindView. And Benny earned a bachelor's degree in computer science from the Technion Technology in Israel. So, Benny, welcome to our Risk Management Show podcast today.
Hi.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me, Boris. Really appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for your time.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure to invite you on our podcast because it's the first time that guys from your company are on our podcast, and I believe that we will have a very thoughtful conversation on this topic of trends in 2025 in critical infrastructure cybersecurity, including how to safeguard the critical systems and stay ahead of emerging trends, and probably Content Disarm and Reconstruction, CDR, particularly how it delivers the best ROI in cybersecurity when implemented effectively. But before that, Benny, could you tell us a short story about yourself, your career path, and what brought you to where you are right now, and what you guys at OPSWAT are up to the date?
Oh, thanks, Boris. So I was always a computer enthusiastic. So I always kind of was fascinated about computers, programming from young age. Actually, my first computer was ZX81, 1 kilobyte, and that was really fun. And I always knew I'm going to go and found my own business. I mean, I was looking up to my mother, who ran actually architecture business, and I was always looking to because I knew it's going to be in cybersecurity, in computer science, because I was very much passionate about that. Actually, early on, I also knew I'm going to go and build a cybersecurity company. However, I wasn't looking to just raise money and then kind of go and find a company. It was very important for me to gain some experience in a large company and also in a small company to understand how organization works. And so this is why I held position in a large company. Back then, NetManage was a large company that, and then also a small company, Netek, that was eventually acquired by BindView and acquired by Symantec, was a really kind of feeling a startup. So, and once I had these two different experiences, and I was kind of, at least I had a taste of how organization should work and maybe sometimes should not work. I felt I was ready and was simply waiting for the idea. And then came with the first idea. The first idea was building a cybersecurity language that really helped me bootstrap OPSWAT. Actually, the language was released in 2004. And then that really helped me bootstrap the company from there on. And then the language became very successful with Palo Alto, Cisco, HP, all kind of adopted the language, and many others, like 50 other cybersecurity companies. And that actually built me a foundation to get to the next big thing. And then the second big idea was building a firewall of data. So pretty much to protect organization from threats within the data to them. And that was a whole story about that. And this is also how the inventing CDR all came about. So how to protect organization from threats within the data. And after that, the pivot for critical infrastructure was was pretty obvious to us because it was kind of very much these are the organizations that were willing to invest and also adopt this really advanced and I think cutting edge technology. And this is where kind of that's a bit about my kind of story. Back to you, Boris.
Fantastic, yeah. So much experience, and we both working for large companies and then starting your own. Benny, let's discuss your topic, content disarm and reconstruction. Can you start by explaining what does it mean and how it fits into the broader cybersecurity landscape?
So content disarm and reconstruction, actually, I like to call it data sanitization. It's a cybersecurity prevention technology. Again, it's not a detection technology. It's a cybersecurity prevention. And what it does, it's assume that all of the data flow into your organization is malicious. And what it does, it's regenerate the data flow. So it assumes all of the files are kind of eventually going to be quarantined and then eventually deleted. And it's simply regenerate the data. So the prevention of cyber threats is not by the detecting anything malicious, it's by elimination of all of the file flow and regeneration of data. So it's a true zero trust philosophy. So you very much you don't really trust any file. I mean, I know that zero trust is mainly about networking and about how kind of network access to your organization. This is about the file flow. So how you eliminate threats from any file flow into your organization. So it's true prevention mindset.
And what about return on investment focus? Because many organizations struggle to balance security investments with measurable outcomes. What makes this solution or methodology a standout solution in terms of delivering a high return on investment?
So I like to call CDR the best kept secret in cybersecurity because it's a really high impact with relatively low complexity and low computing power. And also all of the traditional detection tools that they're required, like the constant update and tuning, and also you have you have lots of AI threats, and then AI threats is a double-edged sword because you have the AI-based cybersecurity attacks and AI-based defense. So you have like kind of AI against AI, and it's more of about a race kind of into, okay, who's going to get the latest model to go and fool the previous model. And then, and if you really think about that, it's like if you kind of pretty much prevent any executable flow into your organization and you regenerate all of the productivity file, you can achieve something very close to 100% protection just by kind of adapting these policies. Now, whenever you think about ROI and you want to really calculate the ROI, you need to kind of put into kind of consideration obviously the cost and the time to maintenance and the folks to go and put that together and the cost of the cybersecurity tools. And you want to put that in against the kind of the cybersecurity measures that you have, and you want to go and weigh against the risk that you have. It's very, very tough to go and calculate ROI. Unfortunately, most of the industry is not driven by ROI. It's driven by brands and by press and by by emotions as well, and not by kind of by common sense. So if someone really want to go and really calculate the ROI, we can definitely help them to put that together because the ROI calculation will change based on different organizations. Though whenever someone is planning to calculate, my biggest tip for them is that whenever they measure the data flow and their prevention mechanism against data flow to the organization, they need to remember that anti-malware and next-generation anti-malware are usually being measured to how they protect the device and not how they scan a file. Antiviruses were designed to protect devices, not to scan files. And whenever you ask an antivirus to scan a file and to predict whether a file is going to be malicious or not, it's going to perform terribly, actually less than 50% on the average, including all of the recent AI models around those. And by implementing CDR on the data flow, you can achieve on some file formats nearly 100% prevention. We had the Homeland Security and multiple countries trying to pound on our CDR technology and without success to penetrate this specific file flow. So this is why, again, so many critical infrastructure like to adopt our CDR, and this is why I'm personally so passionate about that. So.
Mhm. And what are the key implementation challenges, and how can they overcome organization? Can they overcome this to ensure success? And maybe you can provide some use case without dropping the name if you don't want, because it's always nice to see some successes and hear.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we have close to 2,000 companies that we protect critical infrastructure around the world, and most of them are using our CDR technology. So, and I'll be able to go and drop some names. And also, we even have video testimonials as well on our website. So, so back to the question about how to implement CDR. So, CDR is not like a turn on and turn off technology, because it's all about the data flow to your organization. So you'll be surprised how many organization does not really understand their data flow into that. So how data flow is flying to the organization. You have email, you have file upload, you have file download, you have USB keys, you have database transfers, you have external sites, you have internal sites, you have third-party vendors, you have APIs, you have so many different ways that file flows is flying into your organization. So first, understanding the data flow. Number two, whenever you need to implement CDR on a data flow, it's not like, okay, I'm going to turn on CDR. It does require some tuning and modification. So for example, obviously you want to prevent executables. Executables are should be used by IT, and then there's a whole kind of process around how to get executables. So let's talk about productivity files. So you want to configure what type of productivity files are allowed to specific groups at your organization. So if you have designers, then all of the designers, you have an AutoCAD shop, you have PDFs, you have Word documents. Obviously, we have templates for that, and many organizations are very similar around that, though any CISO and will need to understand what type of file flow are moving into the organization, and also the configuration on each one of the file flows needs to be configured. So, for example, where you can say that in the specific Word document, I'm allowing macros, I'm not allowing scripts. I'm on this PowerPoint, I'm enabling animation, however, I'm not enabling macro. So, and then you can also classify that based on departments. You can say for accounting, I'm allowing X, for engineering, I'm allowing Y, for other operation and finance, I'm allowing X. So, creating this role-based file flow to groups is key to master the CDR. Obviously, there are templates. You can be up and running with CDR in nearly no time by implementing the basics. So if you really want to master it and achieve 100%, then you need to go and delve a bit deeper into how to implement CDR in your organization. So you want to pretty much create a file policy, so such as customizing policy based on the file type that are relevant to your organizations, and also you want to implement, like anything else, change management, exactly like you do change management to your firewall rules or other things that you're putting together. You want to implement change management to what you have. And back to your second question about success stories, about that. So again, we've seen multiple success stories of CDR among our critical infrastructure protection customers, whether it's in government, whether it's in defense, whether it's in the public sector, whether it's in finance. However, we also have seen that the CDR is also useful in not the traditional critical infrastructure. I'll give you an example. There is a very known platform called Upwork that it's pretty much for professionals that are using pretty much, you can hire any professionals to do multiple tasks from engineering to creative. So they suffered a lot of attacks on folks uploading files and documents into their systems. And they tried to implement everything there, so such as antiviruses and sandboxes, nothing worked. So by implementing CDR on the data flow on all of the file uploads, it's not only that we prevented all of the malicious uploads, also they've seen a reduction of the global cybersecurity attacks on them. So that's kind of one example. We have multiple examples actually on multiple videos, whether it's nuclear facilities that are using that, whether it's healthcare systems that by implementing the CDR, it is still very, very effective for them to prevent cyber threats. There was a pretty known breach in manufacturing in the US that it was funny because they contemplate to use CDR and they said, you know what, it's not so. And then after they've been hit by a ransomware that kind of took their systems down for a week, and they've seen that actually by implementing CDR, the threat could have been prevented. And since then, they're implementing CDR on as many data channels as they can. And that's also another great success stories of CDR and implementing it, and especially in critical infrastructure that we cannot really afford any downtime to those.
All right, awesome. So on critical infrastructure, cybersecurity in this year or going forward, what are the emerging trends and what do you see as the most pressing cybersecurity threats to critical infrastructure?
So there are many, many. So I would start with a state-sponsored cyber attack. So, there is like multiple APT that groups like launching all kinds of sophisticated like Triton or in destroyer that are kind of state sponsored. So it's very, very hard to protect against state sponsored because state has so many resources, and if they target organization, then it's really hard to prevent a downtime. The other supply chain exploits, and the supply chain exploits, whenever we say supply chain, there are actually multiple avenues for supply chain. And number one is your software, everybody using software, many organizations using software, they compile software, using open source, they have their own development team. So anything that anybody to go and circumvent that could create an issue. Supply chain is also about software updates. So if you need to go and update the software and someone is intercepting the channel of the software updates into your organizations, also you have a big challenge, and we've seen some of them happening. And then another issue of supply chain is your hardware. So imagine that you have your your team members taking their laptop, flying to a location, and coming back. Someone could have kind of exploited this specific laptop or these specific devices. Let's say that you buy something, and someone actually attacked pretty much the shipping company. So any IoT or computer devices that you just about to implement within your network could be compromised. There have been all kinds of ransomware as a service kind of systems that I'm pretty sure there are so many. Actually, the podcasts just on that as well, and you can just be targeted by a bot that automated extorting money from ransomed computers. IoT and IIoT vulnerabilities. So there is all of the IoT. So IoT is running so many different outdated operating systems, and also IoT connected to the internet. So you have multiple issues and multiple threats that could be compromised. I'm pretty sure that many state-sponsored attacks are about to leverage IoT and IoT vulnerabilities. So think about, again, you have an outdated operating system running on a printer, running on a camera. Someone is somehow uploading a files there, exploiting this specific vulnerability, and then ta-da, this specific device is compromised, can be used to launch additional attacks on your critical infrastructure, on your organization. And then AI-powered attacks. So AI-powered attacks are, and again, as I mentioned before, it's a double-edged sword. On one end, the defenders are using AI to detect cybersecurity threats, and then you have the attackers also using cybersecurity threats. Now, using AI and leveraging AI is becoming more and more affordable. You see that we just yesterday there was a new AI, a new open source Chinese open source model that is really
Yeah.
taking all of the AI development down, and also new computing power. So if you see the recent CPU for $70 that can process so much more. And then you have the open source with DeepSeek, as I mentioned, and you have Intel and AMD coming up with additional models and modes to go and launch and foster uh, hackers to go and write more cybersecurity threats. So AI-based attacks, whether it's the file-based or network-based or phishing-based, are going to continue. And with a reduction of cost and price to do that, then you're making all of this technology accessible to more and more hackers. And I can go all day. I mean, I can talk
Yeah,
about
yeah,
insider threats. I can talk about insider
yeah.
threats and
Absolutely.
all of the issues about insider threats and activities around those. So
That's
obviously another avenue that there are actually multiple ways to do it, actually including AI, including
mm.
additional solutions to get those.
Mm. And what are the proactive measures to implement for organizations? Because I know that your solution probably is an answer that you would like to tell us about. But for example, in general, what trends, technologies do you think will shape the future of critical infrastructures of cybersecurity, and how can businesses stay ahead of the curve? Because we don't know what will fly at us. In few days and few months.
Again, beyond the traditional, I'm going to go and focus on, I would say, critical infrastructure. In critical infrastructure, there are actually several things I believe can really help us shape and protect this network. So number one thing I would say is extreme network segregation. So by saying network segregation means that you have 100% isolation between networks. So if you go to a defense, there is simply no network connection between these two. It's not a firewall in between, it's a full isolation. You can achieve that by implementing a data diode or an optical firewall. Optical firewall is different than regular firewall because, again, regular firewall can be exploited by vulnerabilities, and also you can have firewall rules. So network segregation and segregating the data, the networks with unidirectional gateways and those. This is extremely effective to prevent cyber threats. Number two, whenever you need to go and transfer data between these networks, then we already talked about CDR, implementing the CDR to the best you can. Regenerate the data. Don't use only detection-based technology. Regenerate the entire data flow, and also create a full digital transformation from these specific networks. So if you have something extremely sensitive, yeah, I know everything is saying cloud, cloud, cloud. No, segregate the thing. And then for your connected network, I would say implement CDR to every data flow and also every data channel that you have in your organization. So whenever you have all of the incident response that you have, you want to also connect all of those into a single solution. Now, CDR, although it's a prevention technology, it can also sometimes, with the right configuration, tell you if you are under attack or not, because CDR is built on detecting a file. What is the file type? Is that a JPEG? Is that a Word document? Is that a PowerPoint? Is that an AutoCAD file? Number two is parsing through these files to understand what's the content. And number three is the regeneration of the content. However, many of the attacks are based on buffer overflows and based on metadata manipulations. And by passing through the files, you can detect some of these attacks. So implementing that and integrating that into your SIEM SOC and alerting about those is very key. To that, I also would add the traditional things, 2FA for anything that you do, third-party risk management, all of the endpoint protection and patching, SDP, using SDP versus VPN. So with SDP, you can actually implement a zero trust network philosophy. So you can actually have a user connecting to a specific device. network shaping technologies to go and enable only specific protocols to go only to specific networks and activities around those. So multiple ways to do it. I would say the number two major things I would say for 2025 is number one, segregated networks, and number two, implement CDRs on those. That will be my kind of top two. I believe that the market is not adapting fast enough and regulators are not pushing fast enough to protect critical networks.
Oh, fantastic. Benny, I would like to ask you a personal point of view. What are some of the major misconceptions around the CDR that you kind of strongly disagree with?
Oh, that it's corrupting the file formats. It's completely fake news. Actually, there is a lot of activity actually passing the files and regeneration. Actually, the PowerPoint animation, multiple languages, it's preserved really nicely. Number two, that it's slow. Actually, it's pretty fast. It works almost as fast as as antivirus scanning. It's way faster than the sandbox. Maybe slightly slower than some antivirus. So this would be number three is it's hard to configure. I think it's a lot of the resistance in the market on CDR is coming from ignorance and laziness.
All right, fantastic. So if we summarize our interview for those who are listening in and would like to walk away with one or two major takeaways, what would it be?
Study what is CDR, study what is network segregation, and study what is a optical firewall.
All right, fantastic, Benny. Thanks again. That were all my questions. If I forgot to ask you something that you feel important to our audience, please go ahead.
I'm good. Thank you, Boris, for the opportunity. Really, thanks for your time and the opportunity to speak here.
Absolutely, it was my pleasure. I wish you and your company a great success and seeing more implementation of this solution because it's very important to keep save our infrastructure.
That's good. Thanks so much, Boris.
Absolutely.